Hey business warriors, welcome to the show. Now recently I noticed the views on my Biden tax plan video rapidly increasing over the last few days, and I discovered it is because 50 Cent, yes 50 Cent, the rapper, posted an image on Instagram complaining and protesting against the tax increases under the possible Biden tax plan that may come in if Biden wins the election. He made one post and he posted several other posts about this. Like he said, I don't want to be 20 Cent. All right, that was quite funny. Now, in my original video, I go through the entire plan, including the business taxes and all the credits and stuff like that. But I thought I'd do just another short video focusing on the exact thing that 50 Cent was protesting and showing you why 50 Cent hates Joe Biden's tax plan. Let's read through his post first. What the F? Vote for Trump. I'm out. F New York. The Knicks never win anyway. Actually, the one time I went to see the Knicks, they won against the Toronto Raptors. But anyway, next part. I don't care, Trump doesn't like black people. 62%, are you out of your effing mind? I don't really get the doesn't like black people part. I mean, my neighbor opposite is a black guy and he's got a Trump sign right outside his house. So I don't know. Maybe some of our African-American friends in the audience, leave a comment. Let me know if you have that impression or not. Maybe 50 is just playing around. Now let's get back to taxes. So 50 Cent used to have a mansion in Connecticut. It was actually a really cool place. It had its own nightclub, games room, movie theater, squash courts, you name it. Like, freaking cool place. It seems he sold that and he's now in New York City, so he's living under the New York City tax regime. Now the Tax Foundation came out with this hypothetical number of 62% in top tax rates when you combine all of the state and local taxes together for New York City. A lot of media are going around quoting this 62% number. That's obviously what 50 Cent shared. And actually it's not very clear how this breaks down, how they get to this number. So in this video, I'm going to break down all of the federal, local, and city taxes, etc., and try to make them add up to 62%, see if we can get to that number for New York City. And obviously we're doing this with the top tax rates, all right? Because 50 Cent is obviously a high income earner. He's probably earning several million a year, so he's definitely paying top tax rates. Okay, here's how it stacks up in New York City. So if you're an employee, you would pay a 39.6% federal income tax under Biden's tax plan. That's an increase of 2.6%, okay? It's currently 37%. You would pay an 8.82% New York State income tax, a 3.876 New York City income tax. Yes, New York City has its own income tax, one of the only cities to have it. A 1.45% Medicare tax, a 6.2% Social Security tax. Now this is added under Biden. Social Security, you normally only pay it on income up to $137,000 and then you don't have to pay that 6.2% anymore. But Biden would actually bring it back in at $400,000 and you'd pay it on everything above $400,000 going up, okay? So 50 Cent, if he's earning several million, he's gonna pay that 6.2% on most of his income. And then you have an additional 0.9% Medicare tax for high earners. And that brings us to a total of 60.846%. So we're not quite at the 62%. I'm not sure how Tax Foundation or all those media got to 62%. They possibly could be accounting for tax increases in New York next year because they are talking about increasing the state tax for, to get over the COVID situation and everything like that. So that's a possibility. But 50, there is a way that you might possibly be able to get out of this. Just look at what Joe Biden does, okay? It's like he gives you the puzzle and then he gives you the answer. So Joe Biden sets himself up as an S-corporation to avoid the very taxes that he wants to bring in on people earning over $400,000 a year. Look, how Joe avoids the payroll tax, okay? Well, the tax he wants to bring in is called a payroll tax. So he's bringing it in and then he's showing you how to get out of it. You just set yourself up as an S-corporation, all right? Now, S-corporations in New York City, it comes with a big caveat. So we're going to talk about that later on in the video. There's a bit of a nasty surprise, but just in general, I want to show you how S-corporations work. So let's take a step back. First of all, if you are an LLC, okay, you actually end up paying more tax, all right? You end up paying a rate of around 68%, okay? Close to that, somewhere around that. I'm not a CPA, so these numbers aren't 100% exact, but you're around 68%. That sounds a lot, but even if you're an employee, some of those taxes are paid by your employer anyway, so it's actually kind of the same, all right? Even though it sounds like it's more. Now, if you set yourself up as an S-corp, you have to pay yourself a salary, but you can also pay yourself a dividend. And this dividend, for example, you could pay yourself $50,000 a year, and then your dividend could be another 50 grand or another 100 grand on top of that, all right? So on the dividend part, you can actually avoid all of the Social Security, Medicare taxes, all of them, all right? So this is how you're tax situation would break down if you set yourself up as an S-corporation. 39.6% federal income tax under Joe Biden, 8.82% New York State income tax, and 3.876% New York City income tax, for a total of 52.296%. Sounds great, doesn't it? Well, it's not. In New York City, there's one major caveat. New York City does not recognize S-corporation status, all right? Biden's S-corporation is probably in Delaware, where the state recognizes it. In New York City, they do not recognize S-corp, and they add an 8.85% general corporation tax onto your earnings, which takes you up to a grand total of 61.146%, which is more than you'd pay if you were an employee, okay? Which is crazy, right? In New York, nothing works. It's really hard to decrease your taxes. Obviously, there are some ways, there are people doing it, but it's much harder than in other states. We are actually an S-corporation. We have to be very clear which income was earned outside of New York City to protect that from New York City's general corporation tax. We do have an office in the city, so obviously any business activity that takes place at that office, the income generated there, we have to pay this tax on. So we have to be very careful in keeping a record of where we do our business and splitting it up so we don't have to pay that tax on the maximum amount of income. But I would recommend just not setting yourself up. Just don't set up a business in New York City. It just sucks, guys. So 50 Cent, dude, I would recommend, if you want to stay close by, just go to Pennsylvania, man. Set up your S-corp in Pennsylvania. You're only about an hour and a half away, just across the border. You'll pay the 39.6% income tax under Joe Biden, but then you'll also only have a 3% state income tax, okay? It's a flat tax in Pennsylvania on wages or S-corp earnings or whatever. So your tax rate will end up being around 42% or just above 42%, which is actually a lot better than 62% in New York City or 61% or whatever. But you know, you could also go further. I mean, you could go to Vegas, man. You had a 52-room mansion with its own nightclub. You seem like a Vegas kind of guy. I think you'd go down well in Vegas. Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope it's clearer why 50 Cent is so upset with the tax situation in New York. Now, if you are upset with your tax situation, or just with losing money in general, why not cheer yourself up by getting 3 free stocks by signing up for a brokerage account with Webull. All you have to do, you get 1 free stock for signing up, and then 2 more free stocks when you deposit $100, and they're valued between $800 and $1,600. Obviously, it's the luck of the draw what you get. I wish you luck at that. And that $100 that you deposit, that's obviously your money. You can use that to trade stocks or do whatever with it. You're not giving it to them. It's still yours. So anyway, if you're interested in that deal, link is below. As always, guys, please subscribe if you are new, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.